Welcome to Church Girl Gang, a podcast where we get to talk about life, living for Jesus, and everything in between, and how that affects us in the here and now. My name is Kenzie, and I'll be your host, and I can't wait to dive into this conversation with you. Hey, Church Girl. My name is Kenzie, and I will be your host for today's podcast. Welcome to the Church Girl Gang podcast. This is a podcast for girls of all ages who love Jesus and want to spend their lives following after him. If this is your first time joining us for the pod, let me just say welcome, and you have excellent taste in podcasts. I know that because you are listening to this podcast right here. Hey, take a minute and let your friends know what great taste you have in podcasts. Invite them to join you in listening to the Church Girl Gang podcast by sharing this podcast on your social media. It literally couldn't be easier. There is a share button on whatever platform you're listening on. Pinky promise. A pinky promise from me to you. So do that right now. If you are listening on Spotify, guess what? It is so easy to share this podcast episode to your Instagram story, which you know is the place to be. So do that right now. Take a second, look around for the share button, and share this with all your friends. Let them know that you're listening to the Church Girl Gang podcast. Take a minute, do that right now. It's the end of January, you guys, and that means it's time for a little check-in. Are you ready? Okay, so how have your New Year's goals been going? Ooh, I know. Did you feel a little thud in the pit of your stomach just now? Because I did when I decided that that's what we were going to talk about today on the podcast. Because honestly, if I'm being super honest, I haven't crushed it like I thought I would. I haven't given up. I haven't stopped on my goals, but in a lot of areas, I've gotten in my own way. You know what I'm talking about. For instance, if you go back and listen to episode number 1 of this season, and that's from just a few weeks ago. So if you haven't checked it out, go check that one out. It's really good. You might recall my fitness goal, which is, at least for this month, to do 2-a-days, 4 days a week, and then have another day where I do one of the 2 kinds of workouts that I've been doing, which is kickboxing and strength training. So total 5 days of working out per week, and 4 of those days doing 2 workouts per day. Now, this did not work out so well for me. The good news is I've been working out between 4 to 6 days per week, so still not too bad. But the bad news is I couldn't ever really seem to get a 2-a-day thing happening. My biggest problem was that I would start off the week with 2-a-days. I would do Monday, and then I would do Tuesday, and then by day 3, by Wednesday, I would literally be so sore and so tired that I just take the whole day off. And then getting out of the rhythm, I try to jump back in on Thursday, the next day, and just be totally unmotivated to get in my second workout. And I'd basically just give up on the 2-a-day thing for the rest of the week. I know. Boo, boo, tomato, tomato, tomato on me, okay? In other areas, I feel like I've actually done pretty well. For instance, I'm doing the Bible in a year. Once again, we talked about that. And maybe I'll jinx myself here, but it seems like second time is the charm. I started doing it through the Bible app by using the plan, the Bible Recap by D Group. Such a great plan. It's really helped me stay motivated. It's super engaging. There's a podcast that goes with it. Super fun. And I've actually been able to keep up with this one. I was thinking about maybe why I was able to keep up with this one better. And I have some thoughts throughout the rest of this podcast that I'll share with you. But one I wanted to share that was just kind of interesting about going through the Bible in a year specifically, at least for me, is that the year before, last year, I tried to do the Bible in a year, but I had a physical Bible in a Year Bible. And I think for me, maybe just seeing the whole thing and feeling like I wasn't making much progress as you go through a month, it just feels like you haven't gotten through that much. You can see the rest of the Bible just sitting there. And so it was kind of intimidating for me. Well, doing it through the Bible app, I can't see all the days ahead. I can only see about 3, 4, maybe 5 days. And so to me, it feels a lot more doable. It doesn't feel as stressful. And so I'm wondering if maybe that's one reason that I've really been able to keep up with this pretty well. So back to your New Year's goals though. Are they going well, or are they falling apart, or maybe they're somewhere in between? I thought today we could talk about some tips on making them happen. I really think because I'm kind of on both ends of this, right? I've had one that's gone really well. I've had one that has not gone well. I've kind of compared the two, and I've figured out a few reasons why things have either worked or not worked. I've been spending some time thinking about it, and that's why I just wanted to talk to you about this today. So, are you ready for it? Here's tip number 1. Solidify your goal, okay? When you decide to take on something new, it's important to make sure that your goal is like ultra clear. If thinking through whatever it is that you are wanting to do feels overwhelming to you, then maybe ask yourself, is my goal too big? Sometimes it is. If you're me, sometimes it is. Sometimes you try to work out twice a day for a whole month and your body is literally unable to do it. Whoops on me. That's one thing that definitely rang true for me, especially. I wasn't even able to figure out my plan or schedule and how that was going to work out because it was literally just too much with everything else that I had going on. So, is your goal too big? If so, turn it into something manageable. Here's what I'm doing now. I'm doing 5 days a week. I'm working out once a day. And I may have a bonus 6th day if I'm able to. But again, it just depends on my schedule for the week. So for me personally, this is a lot more manageable. It doesn't make my head spin, and I can actually make a plan for my workouts, and it's kind of fun because I'm not having to stress out about it, and I can fit them into my day really, really well. Okay, so number 1, solidify your goal. Just be thinking through what really is my goal. Why am I doing this? And is it too big? Maybe my goal needs to change. So take some time to solidify your goal. Okay. Tip number 2, have a partner in crime. Okay, so this made it second on the list only because I think just in sequential order, this is probably good to do second, but to me, this is actually the most important part of the whole thing, okay? And that's because I know from my own past experience, when I have someone who's doing something with me, we're able to push each other along and encourage one another to keep going. Like with the whole reading the Bible in a year thing, I will tell you the biggest difference between the failure of last year and the success so far, at least of this year, is that I actually have people who are doing it with me. This has been huge. Thanks to the Bible app, if you're doing a plan with someone, you can actually see who all is in the plan with you, and then you can see how much of the plan that they've actually done. And so everyone knows if I'm actually following through and reading or not. And this has been such a huge motivating factor for me to stay consistent, keep going, and even to catch up when I fall behind a day or two, because I have. And I know that other people see that I'm falling behind. And so it just encourages me to say, hey, you know what? Today I'm going to do 2 2 days worth of reading so that I can catch up and really do this with my friends, and they help to hold me accountable. The Bible actually says in Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And it also says in 1 Thessalonians 5:11, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. And don't think that this just goes one way, that doing something with someone is it's not only going to keep you on track, but it's also going to build your character and build your relationships as well. It is so important. And I really believe this is another reason out of just 1,000 why God wants us to live our lives in community, because we have such huge potential to make each other better. Remember in Genesis when God said to Adam that it wasn't good for him to be alone? I know we've spent a lot of time in Genesis before, so maybe you remember talking about this story together. But, as a human archetype, I think it's really important for us to take note of Adam and of his story. So God knew that Adam was going to live a much, much, much more fruitful life inside of community. So God gave him a partner in crime, aka Eve. So for us, let's make sure that when we're making a plan or setting a goal, that we invite others to engage in that with us. I'd also let it slip that I'm taking a Financial Peace University course. If any of you remember that from that past episode, well, class number 1 started last week, and can you even guess what they had us do in the very first class? They had us pair up. Now, a lot of people were taking this class with their spouses. I am unmarried. I partnered up with a friend and my sister, well, also my friend. And so we are all partnered up together. Why is this? Because we now have accountability, we have encouragement, and we have someone that we know is in it going through the same things we are. Very, very important. Before we get back to the conversation, I want to take a minute to tell you about one of our sponsors, and you've heard me talk about them many times before, but I just have to let you know about them because they are so, so important to me. I think what they're doing is incredible. And this sponsor is Connection Christian Academy. CCA is a K-5 hybrid homeschool located in beautiful Buda, Texas. Their mission is to provide kids not only with a fantastic learning experience and environment, but also give kids leadership tools that they can use for the rest of their lives, while also sharing the love of Christ, which is incredible, you guys. With everything going on in the world today, it just seems obvious that kids should be learning in an environment like this. And it couldn't be easier, as the staff has worked hard to make tuition extremely affordable. So, what are you waiting for? If you're in Austin, Hays County, San Marcos, or the surrounding areas, do not hesitate. Head to myconnectionacademy.com for more info and to apply today. Tip number 3 is this: create a consistent schedule. This is different than solidifying your goal, okay? This is the part where you sit down with a calendar, whether it is digital or real actual paper. But honestly, for me, there's something that really helps me about using a pen and paper. Actually, studies show that you remember things better when you write them out with your hand, like not typing. I know, what? Not typing? And I really have found that to be so true for me. It just feels more official, I think, when I write things down, because I can't just go back and hit the backspace to get rid of my plan. This is actually so important to me. This is a practice that I've put into place in my life over the past, forever, it feels like. It's so important to me that for Christmas, I actually asked, this was the first year that I asked for a calendar. Usually I get my own, but I asked for like a really nice planning calendar from my fam. And the only reason that they got it for me, besides that I'm just a super nerd, was because they knew how big of a deal it is to me to be able to write these things down. Anyway, enough of that nerdy talk. The real point of this is to write down a time a date, and a place for whatever it is that you're doing. Proverbs 29:18 says, without a vision, the people perish. The same is true for your goals, okay? Without a vision for your goals, they will all fall apart. So set that vision. Go do it. Write it down on the schedule, and you're going to be that much more likely to make it happen. It's sort of like a financial budget, since I've been doing a lot of that. But it's for your time. Of course, sometimes we don't always plan our schedules realistically, aka me. I don't always plan my schedule realistically. I'm really awful at thinking through amounts of time. I usually undershoot it. And also distance. I'm really bad with distance too, but maybe that's for a different podcast episode. But since I'm so bad with time, I'm going to tell you about tip number 4 for those of you who are bad at this, like me, which is adjust the schedule. This is the next step, okay? If at first you don't succeed, try again, right? This may not go well the first time through. That's okay. You may realize that you didn't budget your time well, which is what I usually do the first time around when I'm trying new goals out. So don't be afraid or give up when this happens. You've just got to adjust your schedule, right? Adjust, stay flexible. My dad always tells me, I know I'm quoting him all the time on this podcast, but he's so wise. He says, blessed are the flexible, for they will not get bent out of shape or broken. So adjust. It's okay to adjust. Maybe you choose a different time of day or a different day of the week that'll work better for you to try to tackle your goal. You may have to do this a few times until you figure out what works best for you. That is totally fine. But what I really want to encourage you to do is to not give up too quickly, okay? Do your best to persevere. If you've got that partner in crime, now is a perfect time to talk to them about what might work better to achieve your goals. And maybe they have some thoughts and some encouragement for you. Maybe they can help you figure out how your goals might fit into the puzzle of your schedule. And tip number 5 is this. Know that when you do mess up, it's okay to give yourself grace. None of us are perfect, right? Jesus said in Mark 10:18, no one is good except God. God is the only one who is going to hit it on the mark every time. Not you, not me. Nobody else is going to do that. So start reframing your goals as works in progress. That's what I like to call them. You might have heard me say that quite a few times as we've talked about goals on a couple of episodes, right? They're just works in progress. We're going to get there eventually. And remind yourself when you mess up, when you miss a day of your workout, when you eat a cookie and you know you shouldn't have, that it's not time to give up, okay? Instead, it's time to forgive yourself and jump back in. You know, there used to be a time in my life when if I missed a workout during the week, I would just stop and say, well, I didn't hit the goal this week, so I may as well give up and just start over on Monday. Do not start over on Monday. Don't be past me, okay? Like if you eat the cookie and it was a part of your goal not to, then just say to yourself, wow, what a delicious cookie that I got to eat. And then stop eating the cookies, okay? Do not eat any more cookies. Every action you take or do not take either brings you closer or further away from achieving your goals. So take the steps that you know are going to bring you closer to achieving your goals. Here's what I really want you to know about your goals, though. God already loves you. He already sees you, and in his like blood of the lamb tinted glasses that he's wearing, he sees you as righteous. On the other hand, everything you do to challenge yourself and make yourself into a better person is going to send you right along that narrow path of sanctification, making you look and act more like Jesus every single day. So remember these two things and hold them in balance, and I think you're going to do great. Before we part ways today, I want to let you know that I'd really love to hear how your New Year's goals have been going. So let me know in the comments below this video or DM at Church Girl Gang on Instagram, or the coolest way you can respond is actually through Spotify. Y'all, they've got so many cool features. You should see a pinned question right below this episode. Super cool. Okay, so by the way, when you respond, I'll take some comments and I'll share them on our next episode. So do it. I want to hear how your New Year's goals have been going, okay? Or if you had any thoughts on today's podcast episode. We'll be right back here next week for another podcast, and I should warn you, we're entering into February, and can you even guess what that means? I'm sure you can. We're going to talk about all things love and relationships. Hello, it's going to be so fun. And yes, we are having a Galentine's party this month as well on the podcast. So get ready for it, gang. It's going to be awesome. But before we end, I just want to remind you of this verse found in Colossians 3:23 through 24, which says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." Until next time, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon, Church Girl. Hey, thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Church Girl Gang. If you enjoyed listening to this and want to help us grow the gang, be sure to leave a 5-star review on your listening platform. If you're on YouTube right now, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. You can connect with the Church Girl Gang and say hello on Facebook or Instagram. And also feel free to connect with me personally on all social media platforms, including YouTube, by searching at Kenzie Carisse or heading to kenziecarisse.com for more content just like this. Bye!